Hey everybody, it's Nick with Comic Experience Sci-Fi at Motor City Comic Con 2021, and I'm here talking to Roy Schwartz. Roy is the author of this book, Is Superman Circumcised? The Jewish History of Superman. Okay, Stan Lee, real name Stanley Martin Lieber, Jack Kirby, artist, Bob Kane, creator of Batman, Jerry Siegel, Joel Shuster, creators of Superman, all Jewish. Is there something Jewish about the idea of a superhero in and of itself?
Yeah. So the comic book medium is a Jewish invention. The superhero genre is a Jewish invention. The Comic-Con is a Jewish invention. This can all be traced, just like jazz and African Americans, comic books can be traced to a very specific group of Jews in New York in the 30s and 40s. It was a depression. They couldn't get a job doing anything else. All the respectable businesses were closed to them. So they created an industry of their own, which is like the history of Hollywood, right? And into their creations, aside from the historical context, they imbued them with Jewish signification. They drew on a lot of their culture in these creations. An easy example is we look at Superman, and if you think of Superman's origin story as an infant sent from Krypton, found by people not his own and raised, that's the origin story of Moses. That's baby Moses. And that's like a very easy, simple example to give, but there are hundreds more.
Okay, Jesus, also a Jew.
Famous one, yeah.
More or less a demigod. Mother was a human, father was a spirit, sent to earth by a father to be a light to the human race. If you go by Brando's dialogue in the first Superman film, is Jesus the first superhero? Or would Moses or David be? Are they superheroes?
Yes to all, right? Superman is also very much Jesus. They can be a great people, Kal-El, they wish to be. They only like the light to show the way.
Yes.
For this reason above all, their capacity for good. I've sent them you, my only son.
There you go.
Not that I've seen it too many times or anything.
Right.
But
I could have done it myself.
Right. So there's absolutely that. But those layers, the Christological layers, were added in later years. And it's all good. This is not some like bragging rights or ownership. It's about recognizing contribution. It all comes back to the same sources. It calls it the same place in the world, right?
Yes.
And yes, Jesus is sort of like the prototypical superhero. And before him, we have King David. And King David is this scrawny youth who nobody took seriously. There was this big enemy from the East, Goliath, coming. He picked up a star-spangled shield and went to fight him. That's Captain America, 2,800 years before, right?
Right.
And that Jack Kirby, is a little artist from the Lower East Side, creates another little artist from the Lower East Side who picks up that shield.
Right.
So it all kind of ties together. And we have Moses, who, from a literary perspective, we look at Scripture just as works of literature. He is a prototype of Jesus. They have so many of these parallel stories from their origin, right? You have the massacre of the innocents and the Bethlehem and going to Egypt, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So it all comes back to Scripture as this source that the creators drew upon, sometimes consciously, sometimes not consciously, depending which of the creators you ask. And you can really trace the history of comic books step in step with Jewish American history of the early 20th century.
Okay, what about the concept of the secret identity? Now, I've read over the years that Jewish people often, of course, had to change their names. They had to hide their real identity and not really be themselves, if you will. But their real selves, of course, are these wonderful people like Superman or Batman, but they have to kind of be these subdued, mild-mannered characters. Is there something Jewish about the concept of the secret identity?
I really think there is. And there were secret identities before Superman, but they were just a matter of convenience. I have a mask on, nobody knows who I am. But they weren't aspects of identity. Think about Superman as a Kryptonian passing for an Earthling. When he transforms from Clark Kent to Superman, it's not just the personal, it's the ethnic as well, right? He's a one-man ethnicity, right?
Yes.
And it's hard maybe for younger viewers today to realize in the age of identity politics and pride of where you are and where you came from, this didn't used to be the case. You know, the standard was WASP, and the thing to do was to pass. So you have Kal-El, born with the Hebraic name. El means God in Hebrew. He comes over from the old country, Krypton, right? He changes his name to Clark Kent. Michael Chabon said only a Jew would come up with that waspy name, right? And he passes. And every time, at any given moment, he can decide which aspect of himself, personally and ethnically, can interact with the world. And that's exactly what they did. Stanley Martin Lieber, Stan Lee, Jacob Kurtzberg, Jack Kirby.
Right.
The Shusterowicz family became Schuster. The Segalowitz family became Siegel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So very much they drew upon what they knew and what they understood to imbue the secret identity with meaning, which didn't exist before Superman.
That's great. Where can people get your book if they're not able to make it to Comic-Con this weekend?
So it will be offered through the Detroit Jewish Book Fair, which is wonderful and has all kinds of comic books and related things. It's sold everywhere books are sold, any bookstore, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. But if you want it signed, Comic-Con is where it's at.
Thanks a lot, Roy.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.